What makes Jimin BTS suddenly silent in the middle of his schedule? Who is the unexpected figure that makes the atmosphere change drastically? And what does Calvin Klein have to do with all this? Check out the exclusive surprise that made a splash in the world of K-pop and fashion. Don't forget to like, comment your opinion, and subscribe to keep updating the hottest news about your favorite idol. Have you ever witnessed a moment where time seemed to stop just because one figure appeared in the room? Have you ever felt that something very big was going to happen, but no one knew for sure until everything exploded in the next second? This is what happened when BTS's Jimin suddenly fell silent, as if he couldn't believe what he was seeing. And this moment became the starting point of a big surprise involving another big name in the Korean entertainment world, Jungkook, and also the world's giant fashion brand Calvin Klein. The moment takes place in a very ordinary setting, or rather, it looks ordinary on the surface. Jimin is going through one of his personal photo shoots, as always, looking professional and full of charisma. However, no one on site knew that it would be a very unusual day. Without warning, the atmosphere of the studio changed dramatically. Suddenly. Jungkook appears. Yes. Without warning, without prior official publication, without even a hint from the management, Jungkook entered that studio. Jimin's first reaction? Fell silent, completely speechless, as if the whole words were swallowed up by his own surprise. His face showed an expression between confusion, surprise, and a little emotion that was difficult to explain. Was it emotion, joy, or just extraordinary surprise? But that's just the beginning. The question continues to haunt everyone who witnessed the moment firsthand. Even the staff on site admitted that they were not informed of Jungkook's arrival at all. What makes the hair stand on end is what Jungkook brings with him. In his right hand, he holds an elegant black box, bearing the CK Calvin Klein logo. And not only that, he wore a leather jacket typical of Calvin Klein, with a design never seen before. The camera caught Jimin's eyes fixed on the logo, and we all knew something big was going on. Within minutes of the incident, Calvin Klein Korea's official account released an upload that shocked the virtual world. In the upload, they wrote one sentence that made the entire ARMY fandom, fashion observers, and even celebrities start speculating. Suddenly, rumors spread like wildfire. Will Calvin Klein create a special collaboration project between Jimin and Jungkook? Will they be the face of the brand's latest global campaign? Or is it just part of a massive marketing strategy? After the mysterious upload, Calvin Klein released a 35-second video showing the silhouette of two silhouettes of men walking in slow motion, accompanied by narration. Shortly after, a full 3-minute video was released. In the video, Jimin and Jungkook appear as a visual duet that exudes not only charm, but also the power of an emotional story. They were described as two separate forces and eventually came back together, and that left fans unable to hold back tears. In an exclusive behind-the-scenes session, Jimin admitted that he really didn't know that Jungkook would be on set. He looks through his glasses as he talks about his feelings. We haven't performed together like this in a long time. And suddenly, he just showed up. It makes me really speechless. Is this a sign of the return of the iconic duet BTS in the fashion world? This question is the main subject of discussion throughout online forums, ARMY groups, to global social media platforms. Some fans even call this one of the most emotional moments of the year. Because not only does it show two BTS members who are famous for their closeness, but it also shows them as strong but complementary individual figures. And of course, this raises more question marks. Is this the beginning of a permanent collaboration between Jimin and Jungkook? Is Calvin Klein preparing a special fashion line, Jungkook edition? Or is this project part of a global visual comeback campaign ahead of BTS reunion in 2025? Jungkook. We still have a lot to show. In a brief interview after the video was released, Jungkook confirmed that the project is not the end, it is the beginning. He mentioned that there are still many works that they will show together, not only in music, but also in the world of fashion, visual arts, and personal storytelling. The reaction of netizens was amazing. Many admitted that they were surprised, moved, and even felt like they were given a gift by two figures who have been known to have incredible chemistry. Fan art, theory, to reaction videos flooded YouTube and TikTok. Sources in the fashion industry say that the duo project, is only the first stage. Some observers have suggested that Calvin Klein has booked an exclusive location in Paris for the launch of a new fashion line that is rumored to be named CK Parallel. And more surprisingly, the top model mentioned is a familiar icon of the K-pop world in deep friendship. Does it refer to Jimin and Jungkook? Will we witness them on the runway of Paris Fashion Week for the first time together? And it's not just about promotion. It is about the emotional connection between two best friends who are already going through different phases of life, between a fan and his idol, between art and commercialism united in its purest form, honesty. Because when Jimin looked at Jungkook with teary eyes, when their hands touched lightly at the end of that campaign video, and when the whole world paused to watch these two icons stand side by side again, we all knew that this was no ordinary project. Big Hit's agency has yet to give an official statement on the matter, but their silence adds to the speculation. Many fans consider the agency's silence to be a form of indirect permission that the project has indeed been given the green light from the highest level. But there are also those who feel that combining two BTS members in a project like this is risky. What will happen to the group's overall dynamics? Why aren't other members paired? Will this trigger internal frictions unseen to the public? More than that, pop culture observers began to question the motives behind Calvin Klein's notoriously aggressive pursuit of a bold and controversial image. The brand has sparked debate many times through its open-ended sexual campaigns and gender-fluid explorations. Then when they bring together two male K-pop icons with this kind of chemistry, will we really close our eyes and call it a coincidence? There are also concerns about how the still very conservative East Asian markets will react. Korean and Japanese fans, notoriously sensitive to issues of sexual and gender representation, began to show signs of unease. Local forums were flooded with comments asking, "Is this still about fashion? Or is this a veiled message that is too bold for our culture?" And behind all the camera highlights, the roar of netizen comments, and social media uploads that go viral in seconds, there is a layer of story that not everyone dares to reveal. There was a spark of controversy, a tacit dilemma that split the public in two. Why did Calvin Klein choose Jimin and Jungkook together in such an intimate and emotional project? Amid speculation about BTS internal dynamics, the public is not stupid. The ARMY is not just a fan service. There were sharp rumors that this collaboration was not just about fashion or marketing, but rather the implied delivery of something deeper, more personal, perhaps even more daring. A nonverbal communication about a relationship that has been considered too intimate to show, but too strong to hide. Some die-hard fans began digging through old archives, matching past interviews, vlog snippets to too close. Moments of often questionable authenticity. And now, as Jimin is seen almost crying as Jungkook stands in front of him carrying the Calvin Klein symbol, the old issue floats again. Is there something that isn't fully explained to the public? Is their closeness purely as friends, or is it a layered marketing strategy that global brands deliberately use to explore the ambiguous attraction between idols and idols? More alarmingly, some have voiced concerns that this is Calvin Klein's subtle attempt to normalize the idol couple narrative among the young Asian public, a move some see as a form of emotional exploitation. The campaign is filled with visual scenes depicting the physical closeness between Jimin and Jungkook with soft lighting and an indie romance-like plot. No wonder some people call it no longer a fashion advertisement, but a short film full of flavor that goes beyond the boundaries of the usual commercial. On the contrary, many praise this step as a form of revolution. Younger generations, especially in international circles, see this campaign as a symbol of emotional courage and the destruction of boundaries between traditional gender roles in the entertainment industry. They cite Jimin and Jungkook as visual pioneers who created a new space where men could appear gentle without losing strength, could cry without losing masculinity. Meanwhile, hashtags Jungkook for CK and the duo project shot to the world's trending. But along with them came controversial hashtags such as Stephanie Vice President and Respect BTS individuals. One side welcomed the project with love and tears. The other side sharply criticized that the brand and management too often use the chemistry between the members for commercial purposes, without considering the psychological impact and social burden that must be borne by the idol himself. And in the midst of that storm, what remains the main highlight is Jimin's facial expression as he looks at Jungkook. A gaze too deep, too emotional, too full of meaning to simply be called acting? Is it gratitude for being back together on one stage? Or the relief of being able to say something without having to say it directly? The camera captures everything, but only the hearts of the audience can translate the true meaning. One thing is certain: Calvin Klein has lit a fire that will not be easily extinguished. And now, all eyes are on the next step, not just from the brand, but also from Jimin, Jungkook, and BTS as inseparable entities from the global emotions they create. Will this project be a stepping stone towards a more open exploration of identity in the world of Korean idols? Or is it a time bomb that could trigger a crack in the foundations of the world's biggest fandom? What do you think? Is this just a casual promotion? Or is there a hidden message deeper than just a fashion ad? Do you support this kind of emotional courage? Or do you feel this is too far for an idol group? Write your opinion in the comments. Don't forget to like if you're touched, and subscribe to keep abreast of exclusive hot news around the world of K-pop and the cultural shift that's happening right before our eyes. The truth is sometimes not what is seen on the surface, but what is deliberately not said. After the emotional visual furor between Jimin and Jungkook that exploded through Calvin Klein's campaign, questions emerged that began to creep slowly but sharply into the layers of glamour and glitter. Have we just witnessed a major paradigm shift in the image of Korean idols? Or is this just the culmination of a manipulative strategy of a global brand that knowingly plays on public sensitivity for profit? Admittedly, there is something that feels too honest about this project. Too many emotional touches, too many visuals with muted narration, too much unlabeled intimacy. Many began to ask, in whispers or even in an open tone, is this a veiled form of confession? Is this a message from Jimin and Jungkook to their fans, that their bond is not just the imagination of fandom, but something much more real? This narrative is certainly controversial, especially if it touches the sensitive boundaries between reality and fan fiction. But what if? And this is a question that makes the discussion space hot. What if the fan fiction turns out to be not entirely fiction? Meanwhile, cultural journalists began to dissect the visual narrative in the campaign and found details that were not only artistic, but also symbolic. In the scene when Jimin and Jungkook stand opposite each other, then slowly step closer under the moonlight, many see it as not just advertising style. It is not an empty aesthetic. It was a visual language of silent recognition. There was even one moment where the camera showed their hands almost touching, but never really coming together. It's as if they're alluding to the invisible boundary that separates the two worlds, their private world and the public world that can never truly accept the complex truth of the emotional relationship between two male idols. That we live in an era where the Korean entertainment industry is still shackled by unwritten rules about how an idol should perform. Always be friendly, neutral, unambiguous, never too intimate with anyone, especially with fellow members. So when two of the most influential icons like Jimin and Jungkook come out with a narrative this deep, the public is divided. Some revere this move as a radical form of courage. They call it the starting point of liberation for Korean idols, opening up space to express affection without being constrained by rigid norms that silence human emotions. But on the other hand, there are also those who feel stunned, even angry, because what they call professional relationships now look like personal relationships that are too deep to keep quiet. But the most interesting thing is not the reaction of the global fandom, but the cold response of the Korean media themselves. Not a single major Korean outlet has directly raised the emotional or speculative angle of this project. They choose to discuss brand value, fashion quality, and product release schedule, as if there was an unwritten order not to touch that realm, a realm that is too hot to discuss, because it could open a Pandora's box about how the world of Korean idols is shaped not based on reality, but mythology that must be constantly maintained so that the market is not shaken. Meanwhile, critical voices began to emerge from the Asian queer community who felt that the campaign was too playing on ambiguity, without the courage to declare a position. They call it queer baiting, a marketing strategy in which brands leverage queer aesthetics and dynamics to stir audiences' emotions, but without actually championing honest representation. Especially when considering that the LGBTQ+ community in South Korea still faces severe structural and social discrimination. So, is Calvin Klein revolutionary? Or are they just playing with audience expectations and identities to drive up sales? Do Jimin and Jungkook really have complete control over how they're portrayed? Or are they part of a narrative architecture that's been orchestrated with precision to blur the line between reality and fiction? These questions will not be answered by official statements, because indeed no one will admit the truth unambiguously. The world of Idol is not built for brutal honesty. The world of Idol was shaped to create comfort, fantasy, and emotional connectedness deep enough to make fans feel special, but not transparent enough to truly show who they are behind the stage. But if we are honest with ourselves, then we know something has changed. The moment when Jimin looked at Jungkook with glassy eyes, then smiled wordlessly. The moment Jungkook gently rubbed his shoulder, as if to say, "I'm here." That's not acting. It was something that could only be born from a depth of feeling that could not be engineered. And if it makes us feel uncomfortable, it may be because we have been too used to comfortable falsehoods. Then will they talk? Will Jimin or Jungkook one day dare to stand up and say, "It's me, and I will no longer pretend"? Or will they remain silent, waiting for the world to be ready enough to accept that love, closeness, and emotion can't always be put into a box called a label? We don't know. But one thing is clear, they are already signaling. And now, it's the world's turn to decide if it's ready to see its idol as a whole person, not just an icon of perfection polished for the sake of public fantasy. Yourself, are you willing to accept that? Or are you more comfortable embracing illusions? Leave your opinion in the comments. Dare to be honest, or choose silence. Click like if you feel this campaign liberates something in you. And subscribe to keep abreast of exclusive news that isn't afraid to unravel the hidden narratives behind the glittering scenes of the K-pop industry. If you want me to continue by dissecting the possible hidden codes in the campaign video, Jimin Jungkook's emotional track record since debut, and internal interviews from the production staff, just say so. We're not done yet. This story is just beginning.